Welcome back to the channel, buddy, and I hope you're doing fine. Today we're gonna cover another Missive 11 already, and we're gonna talk today about vendors and the Tech Test 3 summary. So as always, we're gonna have some timestamps, only 2 today. I will do a separate video where I give my personal feedback from the Tech Test number 3. So I will not dip into the balancing topics too much today, because otherwise I cover it twice and that's kind of meaningless. Alright, and with that, let's talk about Missive 11. Missive 11, Vendors and Tech Test 3 Summary. Tech Test 3 Summary. Hello Living! First, thank you to everyone who joined us during the technical test and to everyone who has already signed up for the open beta. Very important, you can do the sign up on the Steam page right now. I'm gonna drop that in the pinned comment so you don't miss it. The response has been incredibly valuable. If you haven't already, please consider wishlisting Hunger on Steam. It makes a genuine difference to the project and helps us continue building the community ahead of early access. As we've said throughout the test, this technical test was first and foremost about infrastructure. Our primary objective was to stress our backend systems, matchmaking, servers and overall stability under real player load. Thanks to your participation, we've been able to identify, reproduce and resolve a large number of critical issues, and we've come away with a much clearer understanding of where our remaining work lies. The next major phase of development is balance. Yeah, okay, so there's quite a bit. I said it multiple times that this tech test was a tech test, and sure, give your feedback, but don't quit the game just because, oh my god, lunge OP. Yeah. Like any multiplayer game, balance is never something that is solved in a single pass. It evolves as players discover stronger builds, more efficient strategies, and unexpected combinations. The scale of this test has given us the data we wanted to begin making specific adjustments. Alongside this, we're conducting a comprehensive balance pass across the entire mastery system and every character ability. Some abilities have emerged as defining parts of particular playstyles, while others, particularly abilities designed much earlier in development, have naturally fallen behind as the rest of the game has evolved. Now that we've seen thousands of players interacting with these systems simultaneously, we have a much stronger foundation for making every choice feel meaningful. We're also undertaking a broader balance pass on melee combat itself. This includes reviewing the performance of every melee weapon, the relationship between light and heavy attacks, weapon damage, attack timings, and the overall flow of melee engagements. While we're happy with the foundations of the system, we think there is still plenty of room to make combat feel more deliberate, more readable, and more rewarding. I think this is important to mention though, that I think Hunger will never have a perfect balance. There are too many abilities, too many masteries, there's too much gear, level mean too much. It's probably not possible. However, I don't think this is a big deal because you can act on this. In these games, players will always find then something that is broken, that is OP, and what's important then for the devs is to realize it quickly and then to act quickly. I think that's kind of easy to do. This is probably now a very naive viewpoint, but when, for example, a mastery of run speed is too strong, you can adjust the values very quickly from like 10% to 5% and stuff like that, right? So I'm not too worried about that. Same thing with the weapons, that they need another pass. The spear is absolutely wild during the playtest. That thing one-shots player with blue armor and a green helmet. When you land a headshot, you deal 161 damage. So, we had already some questionable encounters during the tech test, and definitely we need to make a balanced video. But okay, let's continue with this one. Another area we are looking at is the early player experience. Some of the default behaviors that exist before players begin unlocking masteries can make the game feel more cumbersome than we'd ultimately like. We don't want to remove the sense of progression or diminish the satisfaction of building a specialized character, but we do think we can narrow the power gap between newer and more developed characters. Our goal is to preserve the depth of character progression while ensuring that early game players feel capable from the outset, rather than waiting for key masteries before the game fully opens up. I mean, at the end of the day, you do play an RPG game, and this is something that a lot of people seem to forget. Looting is slow, you get masteries for that. Running is slow, you get masteries for that. Reloading slow, you get masteries for that. However, I do understand that, well, it's not very fun, for example, when you're not having any trade points in looting and you have no buff food yet, and then looting takes a long time. So maybe increase the base stuff a little bit and then make the masteries maybe a little bit weaker. One point we'd also like to address is how players are evaluating mechanics within Hunger. At the moment, it's completely understandable that many players judge every ability, item and mechanic through the lens of the expedition experience because that's the content currently available. However, expeditions are only one part of Hunger's long-term design. During our first year of early access, expeditions will increasingly become the foundation that supports a much broader endgame, including dedicated PvP battlegrounds, challenging PvE trials, and large-scale PvE boss encounters. Many mechanics that may appear niche, situational, or even underpowered in today's expedition-focused gameplay have been designed with these future activities in mind. As those experiences arrive, you'll naturally see different builds, abilities, and equipment take on entirely new roles. This broader vision is something we'll continue keeping in mind as we balance the game. Our goal isn't simply to optimize every mechanic for one mode, but to ensure every system has a meaningful place across the wider RPG. So this is pretty cool, and also very important for somebody like me. I'm a PvP player, I'm looking forward to that. And when I solo queue, the PvP can be a little bit scarce, but let's put it that way. In team play, actually, super fine. So I'm looking forward to the dedicated PvP battlegrounds. I don't know yet how they will look like. Maybe we're gonna have some a duel area or something like that, where you can do melee 1v1s, maybe 5v5s, maybe 10v10. I have no clue how that will look like. It feels a little bit like the World of Warcraft battlegrounds. Maybe they mean something like this. Would be really cool to, I don't know, get a little bit more info about that, what they have planned with this. Challenging PvE trials, I think they will be important to also get rid of gear. But please make them challenging, because one of the concerns that I have, and also some of the viewers had during the Twitch streams and everything, when you have good gear and you bring it into the match, it kind of stays in the rotation. At least when veterans are on the server. Because nobody's going to leave behind a spear, nobody's going to leave behind a lasher. Again, then with the lasher, you still need to somehow supply the ammo, but you get the idea. But when these PvE trials are actually challenging, and even veterans lose gear then while doing these PvE trials, maybe these PvE trials only give you cosmetics, so it's not like you're getting even stronger gear over there. Maybe this can work. Also, large-scale PvE boss encounters might be cool. Maybe we get roaming bosses and stuff like that, where maybe the server needs to work together to kill the hunger. Just ideas right now. I like what I'm reading here, though. And just one more point. It also applies to the characters right now that we have. Hugo, for example, is... yeah, it's a no-brainer choice right now. But I don't think that Hugo is OP. And now I will probably get quite some hateful comments, but hear me out. Hugo is so strong right now because we are in the early game of development and everything. So most of the people run a ramrod rifle. That means huge damage, long reload time. His tactical ability blocks the bullet. Now you're probably, well, that is pretty unfair, right? For example, Marie's tactical only heals a tiny bit, and it gets interrupted when you take damage, so... But, however, when you enter a little bit more the mid to late game, and I don't want to talk about the late game during a tech test, but the last couple days you saw more weapons running around. That also means that you have a higher rate of fire. With a higher rate of fire, Hugo's tactical doesn't look that great anymore. Suddenly, when you get hit by a gun that has a high rate of fire and it deals around 30 damage or something like that, then suddenly his tactical isn't that strong anymore. He's just a, and this sounds rude now, he's just a noob stomper. That's what he is. I actually think that characters like Otto in the late game with gear are strong. I also think that Marie is a very good character when your goal is to play in teams with her passive that you can pick up faster, then you skill the mastery to revive faster, and even the final, I think it's called Trauma Torch or something like that, where you can instantly pick up somebody every 5 minutes. That's a super cool character maybe for Battlegrounds. And Serene with the poison, I mean, let's be honest, Serene doing the tech test is garbage. But maybe we will have PvE trials or bosses that will spam poison, and maybe you need then a character that is immune to poison. We've also heard your feedback regarding NPC vendors. During the technical tests, vendor prices were intentionally set with a very high margin because they were originally designed to establish the eventual price ceiling for the player-driven auction house. Without the auction house in place yet, however, those prices understandably felt far more punishing than intended. We'll be reducing vendor prices significantly so that purchasing equipment feels more reasonable while still preserving the long-term economic foundations we want once player trading arrives. I mean, once player trading arrives, it's going to be a completely different beast. Right? I think this is good. I understand from where they're coming from. I know that a lot of people are kind of concerned about an auction house because real-life money trading in other games, Tarkov, for example, is a thing, and it's not good for the game because there is a motivation for people to cheat because, well, they can sell it in. However, you need to keep in mind, and I don't think they mentioned this here, the auction house will not be available at the beginning for your character, I think. they will put this into like the 3rd or maybe even 4th zone of the chateau, which is important because that means you need to level up first for a long time. Even when you have experience, you're not unlocking the chateau zone 3 in like the very first day. You need probably 20 hours or something like that, or at least, to get that area. And that's kind of a guess, but still. The point is, you can't just make a new account and then use the auction house. That's not possible. So when you get banned for real-life money trading or for abusing something, you can't just make as a cheater a new account and then go to the auction house and just resume your thing. That is not possible because it's locked behind quest progression. In Escape from Tarkov, I make a new account, right? I turn on my cheats, my vacuum cheats and whatnot. I get all the loot, I go to the auction house and sell it. And reaching the level where I can use the flea market, I don't know, I think it's not available from the beginning, but it's definitely easier to achieve than, for example, in Hunger. And something that I don't understand is when I see a character do crazy trades in an auction house or flea market, why do these accounts not get instantly flagged and reviewed fast? So I'm not super worried about this because, first of all, new characters will not have access to the auction house, and it's not that easy to do even the trading in-game because your lockbox container is just one item, so the risk of losing stuff is actually pretty high because you can, at least for now, not trade in the chateau and you can only trade during the expedition. It is way too early to judge stuff like the auction house right now. It's fair to have some concerns and to also voice these concerns in a constructive way. Okay, now though, let's talk about something that is probably the #1 pain point for the current Hunger community. One balanced topic deserves its own mention: lunge. We know it's too strong, we've reduced it repeatedly throughout development, and it continues to dominate engagements far more than intended. In its current state, it closes distance too reliably and allows too many fights to be decided before meaningful back-and-forth combat has a chance to develop. We'll be making a much larger adjustment, significantly reducing both its range and overall effectiveness so that positioning, timing, and sustained decision-making matter far more than landing a single lunge. Now, in case you didn't play the tech test yet, let me show you the issue very quick. One is in a ditch and one is inside, but they were shooting people southwest. One is under the bridge.
Got him.
No, he's still running.
Oh, he's alive. What the hell?
So yeah, it's a little bit crazy how far you can travel with this, and there's no drawback really to this. I don't want to talk too much about this because this is one of my main topics that I will cover in my feedback video about balancing. I'm also a little bit concerned because they nerfed it already repeatedly, and these nerfs were tiny. They really need to bring out the club and bash that thing to pieces. Either you can't jump while you lunge, or you just reduce the lunge improvement trait. Or you put a cooldown on it. But putting a cooldown on something always feels a little bit weird from a gameplay point of view. But okay, different topic for my video then. I just want to mention it that you know, okay, they have it on their radar, don't be too worried. Beyond that, there is of course plenty of ongoing polish. We've collected a substantial number of bug reports, quality of life requests, and usability improvements that are already feeding directly into our development plans. Perhaps the most encouraging outcome of this technical test is that the overwhelming majority of discussion has centered around gameplay balance and game systems rather than technical stability. That's exactly where we wanted to arrive. Infrastructure can only truly be tested at scale with real players, and balance can only be refined once thousands of people begin approaching the game in ways no internal team ever could. This is something that I always try to mention. You can have quality assurance, you can have a tech test team of like, I don't know, 50, 100 people, and that's already pretty big numbers, alright? No quality assurance from a small studio has that many people. I think at Hunger themselves there's like, I don't know, around 50 to 60 people working on the game. I'm not 100% sure, but even when you have people just helping you, nothing compares to the real deal when all you maniacs out there try to break something. We continue sharing more updates as we move towards open beta. There's still a great deal to improve before early access, but every technical test leaves us with a clearer picture of what needs to happen next, and we're excited to keep building Hunger alongside all of you. Thank you again for playing, for your feedback, for signing up the open beta, and for wishlisting the game. Your support generally helps us build the RPG we've always set out to make. Okay, so we're done now with their conclusion of Tech Test 3. We're gonna jump now to the vendors. Missive XI, vendors. In a world where every bullet, every scrap of cloth, and every heartbeat costs something, there are few who still deal in fairness. These are the vendors, the traders, merchants, and opportunists who bridge the line between desperation and supply. The work of trade. In Hunger, vendors represent one of several avenues for acquiring and offloading goods. Each maintains their own specialization, preferring certain categories of items over others. The inventories are limited and refresh over time, introducing new selections of wares as the world shifts. What they offer and what they take is dictated by scarcity, demand, and their measure of you. Prices fluctuate with the market's condition, but your reputation carries weight. Those who trade with consistency or aid a vendor through their quests will find prices easing and stock expanding in kind. Trust in Hunger is a form of currency. Okay, I'm gonna show you a little bit how that looks in-game. So first of all, your reputation level matters. The higher your reputation, the more the vendor offers. For example, Eloise is the vendor that will give you buff food. You will only get the crappy buff food, and later you will get, like for example, jellied apple, which is really solid as a buff food for loot identification. So if you want more, let's say, ammo and guns, you level up Renault. If you want more meds, and I think he's also selling armor plates and some guns and ammo, you go to Pyro. So, depending on what exactly you want, buying and selling and doing quests matters. Louis, in my opinion, is the most important vendor at the beginning, because the higher his level, well, the more your stash size increases. He's also selling you then gold keys. Just saying. You can also then go into the Cauldron, which is the second zone in the chateau, and there are different vendors, and it's the same thing. They start with a reputation level, and the higher you go, well, the better the stuff is. Now the question is, who do I sell my stuff to? And you need to be careful because it's not always the same. I don't think it's a huge impact, but if you really struggle with money, you should compare the prices between the vendors. So, for example, I checked, and when I had Pyro and Eloise on the same level, the same item, well, fetched different prices. Then building rapport. Each vendor in Chateau and beyond has their own reputational ledger, recording every act of loyalty, generosity, or deceit. Reputation can be earned in several ways, through repeated transactions, by completing quests, or by undertaking tasks and errands on a vendor's behalf. Every coin exchanged and every favor granted leaves a mark in their memory. As your reputation grows, you may gain access to rare goods, improved prices, and exclusive opportunities. Some vendors will only reveal their most valuable items to those who have proven their worth, or their usefulness. Patience, not wealth, opens the better shelves. I really like how they write their missives. Okay. Then we have currency and conversion. Currency and conversion. All trade in Hunger flows through 3 coins. Copper, the smallest measure of value used for common trade and daily exchange. Silver, the median currency, forged for sturdier hands and rarer goods. Gold, the mark of true wealth, carried by few, desired by all. Each tier converts automatically. 100 copper equals 1 silver and 100 silver equals 1 gold. The system is simple, but the value of coin, as always, depends on what the world decides it is worth that day. Coins can also be found in these money bags, these little money pouches, and you can find gold coins too. They're rare, but check shelves and tables and all of that because you might get lucky. The long game. A strong network of vendors is more than a convenience. It is the spine of survival. The weapons you repair, the food you carry, the ammunition you spend, all of it passes through their hands. The weapons you repair. Wait, what? Now, there is no durability in this game. Will they add durability, or is this just some weird wording? If I remember correctly, they said there will be no durability, and it's not the first time that the wording is sometimes a little bit deceiving, so I think this is just poor wording here, or not the best wording, okay? I don't think there will be durability in this game. I think they're talking here maybe about crafting, or maybe some quests where you have to bring repair stuff. I'm not sure. Those who build and maintain their relationships early will find themselves better supplied and better informed as the world changes. In time, some players may choose to dedicate themselves entirely to trade, crafting, and arbitrage, buying, refining, and reselling goods as a means of power. It is a path defined not by violence, but by strategy, foresight, and influence. We consider this not only valid, but vital. In hunger, the economy is as much a battlefield as any forest or ruin. Those who understand its rhythm and its greed can rise as high through commerce as others through blood. So I'm gonna choose the path through blood. But hey, if somebody wanna use this game and make it like an Excel spreadsheet or Simcraft or whatever, go for it. The world to come. In time, trade will extend beyond the individual. After Hunger's early access launch, the economy will broaden, linking players, guilds, and regional markets into a living network of exchange. What begins as a transaction may become a lifeline. What you sell today may save another tomorrow. So they mention here guilds, which will be really cool, and of course we're gonna have our own one. Regional markets and the whole thing. These games, I don't think it's possible without any vibes to actually have a working economy that will not have its own set of issues. They said that once the game is fully released, there will be no vibes in Hunger. So there will, of course, be one after the open beta, and I also assume there will be one after early access, just to, you know, have a fair playing field for everybody who starts the game then. So how exactly do you counter stuff that, yeah, I mean, kind of derailed then when the game is fully released, which will happen? Oh, I'm curious about that. But okay, for today we're done. We covered the Missive. Super happy that they already gave us a new one. I'm super happy that they addressed one of the main concerns that, you know, the community had with, for example, the launch and other stuff. I'm gonna make my own video. I'm working on that right now with, again, lots of clips and showcasing stuff. My own feedback. It matches the one that we saw already here today, but I will go into way more detail then. Okay. I don't think we need to say anything anymore. Just the usual YouTuber begging for a like at the end. I hope you enjoyed these podcast episodes, and this time it didn't take me weeks to get the new Missive covered, so that is nice. And you know what else is nice? Of course, my patrons. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Patreon. You guys are as always simply the best. And here we have my videos, Hunt and Hunger. That's the menu right now, and I think it tastes delicious. I see you in the next one. Until then, have a good day, and bye-bye.